Some moments, they stay with you forever. Not the big ones, not the weddings, the birthdays, or the anniversaries. No, it's the quiet moments, the unexpected ones. The ones that sneak up on you when you're least prepared. The ones that hit you so hard, you can still feel them years later. It's been 2 years. 2 years since my entire world shifted. Since everything I thought I knew, shattered. And the crazy part? It all started with something so small. So ordinary. A simple glass jar. You ever have that feeling? That gut instinct that something isn't right? That moment when your body knows the truth before your mind can catch up? That night, when she slid that jar across the table, when she looked at me with those unreadable eyes, my stomach dropped. My hands went cold. And I knew, right then and there, nothing was ever going to be the same again. I didn't know what was in it. I didn't know what she was about to tell me. But I felt it, deep in my bones. That heavy, sinking weight of a truth I wasn't ready to face. They say people don't just wake up one day and decide to ruin everything. That betrayal isn't some sudden storm, it's a slow, creeping tide. You don't notice it at first. Not until you're drowning. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. I should have felt the water rising. But I didn't. I was blind. Or maybe. I just didn't want to see. I should have known when she stopped laughing at my jokes. When our conversations turned into cold, empty exchanges. When she started turning away in bed, her back always to me, like a wall I'd never be able to climb again. But I told myself it was fine. That all couples go through phases. That work stress, kids, life, it wears you down. And I believed that. Until that night. Until that jar. You ever have a moment that rewrites your entire life? A single second where everything shifts, and you realize, you've been living in a story that wasn't even real? Because that's what happened to me. And when I tell you what was in that jar, you won't believe it either. What would you have done? Watch till the end to decide. My name is Jake. I'm 36 years old, and if you looked at my life from the outside, you'd think I had it all. A house in a quiet neighborhood. A steady job. A wife, Sarah, beautiful, smart, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone turn their heads. She was my best friend once. The person I laughed with, built dreams with, shared everything with. But now? Now she was just a stranger in our home. I don't even remember when it happened. When we stopped being us. It wasn't a single moment, it was a slow fade. One day, we were sharing inside jokes and whispering secrets under the covers, and the next, we were two people who barely looked at each other across the dinner table. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd mumble, "Fine." That was it. Fine. Always fine. But nothing was fine. I worked long hours, maybe too long. Maybe that was my first mistake. I told myself I was doing it for us, for our future, for the mortgage, for stability. But in the process, I didn't notice what I was losing. By the time I'd get home, she'd already be in bed, curled away from me, her body as distant as her heart. And I just let it happen. I was tired. Too tired to fight, too tired to ask, too tired to chase after something that felt like it was already gone. Our home, it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a waiting room. A place where two people existed but didn't really live. The conversations were reduced to logistics. Did you pay the electric bill? Don't forget the trash goes out tomorrow. There was no warmth, no connection. Just routine. A script we both memorized but didn't care to perform anymore. And then, the changes started. At first, they were small. Barely noticeable. Sarah started dressing differently. Not for me, though. I knew that much. The sweatpants and messy buns disappeared, replaced by fitted jeans, tight tops, just enough makeup to look effortlessly beautiful. I told myself maybe she was just trying to feel good again. Maybe she was finally putting herself first. And I wanted to believe that. I really did. But then came the late nights. The sudden phone calls she always answered in another room. The way she started guarding her phone like it was her lifeline, always face down, always locked. She started leaving the house more, no explanations, no invitations. I'd wake up at midnight and find her in the living room, texting. The glow of her phone screen lighting up her face, her expression unreadable. And when I asked, she'd just say, "Go back to bed, Jake." I should have confronted her. I should have asked. But I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. And once you know, once that thought plants itself in your head, it grows. It consumes you. Every late night became a question. Every unanswered text, a confirmation. Every cold touch, every avoided kiss, another nail in the coffin of something that used to be alive. But here's the thing about knowing, it doesn't make it hurt any less. If anything, it makes it worse. Because the person you love isn't just slipping away, they're choosing to. And then, the night of the jar happened. And all the wondering, all the questions, all the slow burn agony of doubt, it all came crashing down in an instant. Because when I opened that jar, I wasn't just looking at an object. I was looking at the truth. The kind of truth that changes everything. And what was inside? It wasn't just a note. It wasn't just a key. It was proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that I hadn't been imagining it. Proof that my wife, the woman I had built a life with, had already made her choice. But the real question was, what was I going to do about it? That night, I was running on fumes. Work had been brutal. Another 12-hour shift, another day of drowning in deadlines, answering to people who didn't care if I was tired, if I had a life outside that office. By the time I pulled into the driveway, all I wanted was a hot shower and a few hours of sleep before I had to do it all over again. But the second I stepped inside, I knew, something was wrong. Our house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin prickle. No TV playing in the background. No music drifting from the bedroom. Just stillness. And in that stillness, was her. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands folded neatly in front of her. Her posture was stiff, too stiff. She didn't look at me right away. Just stared at something in front of her. A glass jar. Small. Simple. Completely ordinary, and yet, I felt my stomach twist at the sight of it. I don't know why, but I stopped in the doorway, like stepping any closer would somehow change things. She looked up then. And that's when I saw it. Her eyes, they were empty. Hollow. But there was something else there too, something deeper. A challenge. A dare. Like she was waiting for me to do something. To figure it out. "Sit down," she said, her voice low, measured. Not angry. Not sad. Just, flat. Empty. I didn't move at first. Just stood there, staring at her. My body felt heavy. My brain sluggish. Every part of me screaming that this was a moment I wasn't ready for. Then, slowly, I stepped forward, pulling out the chair across from her. The wood scraped against the floor, the sound too loud in the heavy silence between us. She reached out, and slid the jar toward me. "I need you to open this," she said. Her voice was calm. Too calm. But her hands, they were clenched into fists in her lap. I looked at the jar. It was sealed tightly, the lid smooth under my fingers. Just a regular jar, right? Nothing weird about it. And yet, my hands felt clammy as I gripped the lid. I glanced back at her, searching her face for some kind of explanation, some clue as to what this was about. But she just sat there, unmoving. Waiting. So I twisted the lid. It didn't budge at first, but then, pop. The seal broke. I felt the rush of air as the jar opened, that faint suction sound, and then. Inside, was a folded piece of paper. Nothing else. I frowned, reaching in, my fingers brushing against the smooth texture of the paper. My stomach twisted. My body knew, before my mind even caught up. I pulled it out, slowly, carefully. Unfolded it. Read the words written in her neat, careful handwriting. And then, the floor dropped out from under me. My eyes locked onto the paper in my hands. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The words, they were simple. Plain. No flowery explanations. No excuses. But they didn't need to be complicated. Because they were enough to flip my entire world upside down. I read them again. And again. As if staring at them long enough would somehow make them change. Make them mean something else. Anything else. But they didn't. The message was clear. I set the jar down carefully. Too carefully. Like if I moved too fast, the whole thing would explode in my hands. Like I was holding something dangerous. I looked up at her. Sarah. My wife. The woman I had shared a life with. The woman I had kissed every morning, even when things between us had started falling apart. The woman I still wanted to believe was mine. But she wasn't looking at me like a wife should look at her husband. There was no guilt in her expression. No regret. No fear. Just, waiting. Like she was expecting me to react a certain way. Like she had already played this moment out in her head 100 times before I ever sat down at this table. And that was the moment I realized, this wasn't some mistake. Some accident. This wasn't something she had done in a moment of weakness and then regretted. No. This was intentional. She wanted me to know. What is this? My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was hoarse, raw. Like something inside me had already started breaking. You tell me, she says. And that's when I realize, she's testing me. Measuring my reaction. Waiting to see what I'll do next. My stomach twists violently. I feel sick. My hands, shaking. My breath, uneven. The room, too small. Too hot. The air thick with something I can't name. Sarah pulling away from my touch. Her laughter, soft, distant, not meant for me. The glow of her phone screen late at night. The hushed phone calls. The sudden changes. The lies disguised as casual explanations. The missing pieces I had been too exhausted, too naive, too desperate to ignore. This isn't normal. None of this is normal. My wife, my partner, the woman who used to kiss my forehead when I fell asleep on the couch, she's sitting across from me like a stranger. And I can't decide what's worse, the fact that she's been lying to me, or the fact that I let her. I stare down at the note again. It's taunting me. Like a wound I can't stop touching. I could ask her. Demand the truth. Scream. Beg. But I already know the truth, don't I? She's handing it to me on a silver platter. She's not denying it. She's not even hiding anymore. She's done hiding. She's already made her choice. And now I have to decide what I'm going to do. I can't move. Can't breathe. My fingers are locked around the note, my eyes frozen on the words staring back at me. 5 little words that don't make sense. That shouldn't make sense. Meet me where it all started. I don't know how long I sit there, staring at it. Seconds. Minutes. A lifetime. My brain refuses to process what's happening. This isn't real. It can't be. My wife wouldn't do this. Wouldn't sit here, calm as anything, sliding me a note like this is some kind of game. A test. But then she speaks. And what she says chills me to my core. You have to trust me. Just, do it. Trust her. Trust her. The woman who's been lying to me for God knows how long. The woman who's looking at me like this is all normal. My body tenses, every muscle coiled tight. My instincts scream at me to stand up. To leave. To demand answers. To do something, anything other than just sitting here like a fool. But I don't move. Because deep down, I need to know. So I reach into the jar again. And my fingers brush against something cold. Metal. Small. Familiar. A key. I lift it out slowly, my hands trembling. It's an old key. Standard. Nothing special. But I know what it's for before I even ask. I know. I don't want to look at her. I don't want to see the confirmation in her eyes. But I do anyway. And she's watching me, her face unreadable, waiting. Always waiting. What is this? My voice is raw, barely above a whisper. It's all I can manage. You already know. I do. I wish I didn't. But I do. A motel key. My wife is having an affair. And she wants me to know. I feel sick. My stomach knots so tight it's painful. My mouth is dry. My head spins. I've suspected for months. Felt it in my gut, in the way she changed, in the distance between us. But knowing something and facing it are two completely different things. And now? Now I have no choice but to face it. I should be angry. Furious. I should be flipping this table, screaming, demanding answers. But all I feel is, numb. Because I don't understand. Why this? Why this way? If she wanted to leave, she could have just left. If she wanted to end us, she could have just said the words. Instead, she sat here. Made me open a jar. Made me find this. Made me watch her watching me. She's not just confessing. She's inviting me. The note. The key. The way she's waiting for my reaction. This isn't just her coming clean. This is a choice. A decision. She wants me to come. The motel. Where it all started. That's what the note says. And I know exactly what that means. Years ago. Before the distance. Before the silence. Before the coldness crept in. We were young, broke, reckless in love. That motel, it wasn't just a place. It was our place. The place we ran to when we couldn't afford anything else. The place where we stayed up all night laughing, wrapped up in each other, promising forever. And now, it's the place she's taken someone else. I could throw the key down. Walk away. Tell her I want nothing to do with whatever sick game this is. But then what? I go to bed knowing she's there. Knowing she's with someone else in the place that used to be ours. No. No, I can't. I need to see it. I need to know. I push my chair back slowly. The sound of wood scraping against tile echoes in the quiet kitchen. I slide the key into my pocket. I don't say a word as I stand up, grab my jacket, and walk toward the door. Behind me, her voice is soft. Almost, amused. I knew you'd go. Then I open the door, step into the cold night air, and drive toward the place where it all started, knowing damn well it's also the place where it might all end. I shouldn't be doing this. I should turn around. Go home. Walk away. Pretend I never saw the key, never read the note, never opened that damn jar. But I can't. My hands grip the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turn white. My breath is shallow. My chest is tight. Every instinct in me is screaming, don't go, but it's too late. The decision was made the second I slipped that key into my pocket. The second I walked out the door without looking back. The motel sign glows in the darkness, a flickering neon red that reflects in my windshield like a warning. I pull into the lot, kill the engine. For a long moment, I just sit there, staring at the door with the peeling paint, the dim yellow light spilling from the window. This is it. This is where it all started. And now, this is where it ends. I step out of the car, the gravel crunching under my shoes. My legs feel heavy, like they're made of lead. Every step toward that door is slow, deliberate. The closer I get, the harder my heart slams against my ribs. The door is slightly ajar. Someone's inside. I don't know how long I stand there, staring at that crack in the doorway, at the soft glow of light spilling out onto the wet pavement. It's like time has slowed, stretched impossibly thin. This is it. No turning back now. And then I see them. I freeze. My mind goes blank. Everything inside me just stops. Because the person standing there, half-dressed, caught mid-laugh before their face drains of color, isn't a stranger. No. It's worse than that. It's someone I know. My stomach drops. The world tilts. The air is sucked from my lungs. I blink. Once. Twice. Trying to process. Trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. Sarah turns to me. She wasn't expecting me to come. But she's not scared. She's not scrambling for excuses. She's not ashamed. No. And then, softly, almost like she's relieved, you weren't supposed to find out this way. Something inside me shatters. Completely. Irrevocably. I want to move. Speak. Scream. But I can't. My feet feel glued to the floor, my throat so tight I can barely breathe. My mind is racing, grasping for something, anything, to hold on to. But there's nothing. Just, nothing. I look at him. Him. The man standing there, frozen, mouth half open like he's trying to come up with a defense. Like there's anything he could possibly say that would make this okay. He was my friend. Someone I trusted. Someone I let into my life. And now? Now he's standing in this room, with my wife, with the sheets tangled around them like some sick, twisted metaphor. My hands curl into fists at my sides. My heart slams against my ribs. Every muscle in my body is screaming for me to do something. To hit him. To yell. To demand answers. But Sarah? Sarah just watches me. Calm. Unapologetic. That goddamn smile still playing at the corners of her mouth. You really came, she says, almost like she's impressed. I wasn't sure if you would. She planned this. She wanted this. This isn't just an affair. This isn't just betrayal. This is intentional. Why? It's the only word I can get out. My voice doesn't even sound like mine. It's hoarse, raw, stripped of everything but pain. Why? She echoes, as if she's never even considered the question before. Then, after a moment, she exhales, as if she's finally decided to grant me an answer. Because you stopped looking at me, Jake. That's it. That's the reason. I waited. I waited for you to see me again. To fight for me. To want me. And when you didn't, she gestures around the room. A slow, deliberate movement. I found someone who did. She wanted to be caught. That's why she left the note. The key. The clues. She wanted to force me to see her. To react. To feel something. I should leave. I should walk away. I should let this moment be the last time I ever see her. But I don't. I can't. Because the pain is too raw, too real. And there's one more thing I need to know. Was any of it real? My voice cracks. My throat feels like sandpaper. Any of it? Yes, she says, and for the first time, I think she's telling the truth. But that doesn't mean it wasn't already over. And just like that. I know. I was never meant to stop this. I was just meant to watch it burn. Would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away? I don't remember leaving. 1 second, I was standing there, staring at her, at him, at the wreckage of everything I thought my life was. The next. I was outside. Moving. Walking. But not really there. The air is cold. Biting. It cuts through my jacket, but I don't feel it. My fingers are numb. My legs move, but they feel disconnected from me, like I'm floating outside my own body. Like I'm watching someone else walk away from that room, from that woman, from that moment that just split my entire life in half. She wanted me to know. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't some slip-up or a guilty confession. No, this was intentional. I should be furious. I should be shaking with rage, fists clenched, ready to storm back in there and demand more. Why, but all I feel is, empty. Because she already gave me my answer. You were never here. He was. I wanted you to feel what I felt all these years. Is that true? Was I really never there? I thought I was. I thought I was trying. Working hard for us. But was I just blind? Did I let the distance grow without even noticing? Was I so focused on the idea of our marriage that I didn't see it crumbling beneath us? No. No, this isn't just on me. Marriage is supposed to be two people fighting for each other. But she didn't fight. She gave up. And then she made sure I knew it in the cruelest way possible. This wasn't about honesty. This was about punishment. And it worked. I should go home. But home isn't home anymore, is it? Not really. Not after this. That house, those walls, they don't mean anything now. Not when I know what she's been doing behind them. Not when I know how long she's been gone, even while she was right next to me. Funny. I spent months wondering. Worrying. Watching the signs pile up, knowing something was wrong but too afraid to face it. And now? Now I know. And I wish I didn't. I don't remember driving. I don't remember the streets blurring past me, or how I even made it back. But suddenly, I'm parked outside the house I no longer recognize. Our house. The one we built together. The one we filled with plans, promises, pieces of a future that no longer exists. I don't want to go inside. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She's not here. Not yet, anyway. Maybe she won't come back tonight. Maybe she'll stay with him. Maybe she'll slip in while I'm asleep, crawl under the covers like nothing happened. Like she didn't just take a knife to my chest and twist it. I should be doing something. Packing. Leaving. Making a decision. But all I do is sink into the chair at the table, hands in my hair, staring at nothing. Because what the hell do you do after something like this? People say infidelity is the worst kind of betrayal. That it cuts deeper than anything else. And maybe that's true. But what really gets you, what destroys you, is the way it rewrites your past. The way it makes you question everything. Were the last few years a lie? Did she ever love me? Or was she just waiting for something better to come along? She didn't even have the decency to lie to me. No fake apologies. No begging for forgiveness. Just that damn smile. That sick, knowing smile that said I wanted this to hurt. I don't know what hurts more, the fact that she cheated, or the fact that she wanted me to feel it. Jake. So. What now? You tell me. I don't know where I'm going. I don't think it matters. The streets blur past me, neon lights streaking across the windshield like ghosts. My hands grip the wheel, knuckles white, but I don't feel it. My body is moving, driving, functioning, but my mind? My mind is somewhere else. Somewhere between the past and the present, between love and hate, between the man I was before I opened that jar and the man I am now, whoever the hell that is. Did I push her to this? Did I deserve this? I think back to all the nights I came home late, exhausted. Too drained to talk, to notice her, to reach for her in the dark. All the times she tried, maybe she did try, but I was too busy, too distracted, too comfortable in the routine of assuming she'd always be there. Did I leave her alone for so long that she had no choice but to find someone else? Or was she always going to leave? Was this always who she was? I could have screamed at her. Could have demanded to know why. Could have begged her to tell me it was all a mistake. But what would have been the point? The truth was already written in the note. Stamped into that damn key. Burned into the way she looked at me, not with regret, not even with shame, but with certainty. Like she had already made her peace with it. And maybe that's what hurt the most. I gripped the wheel tighter, jaw clenched. My mind replays the moment over and over, like a broken record I can't shut off. The way she smiled when she saw me in that doorway. The way he stood there, caught but not scrambling for excuses. The way she spoke so casually, like she wasn't shattering the foundation of our entire life together. The way she said, "You weren't supposed to find out this way." I should hate her. I want to hate her. But I don't. Not yet. And I don't know if that's because I still love her, or if it's because I'm still trying to understand why she did it. Like understanding would make any of this easier. That jar wasn't just glass. It was a Pandora's box. And once I opened it, nothing could go back to the way it was. Not my marriage. Not my home. Not me. I used to think there were certain things in life you could fix. That love, real love, could weather anything. That if two people wanted to, they could always find their way back to each other. But now? Now I know better. I don't know where I'm going. I don't think it matters. Because no matter where I go, the truth follows. He pulls into an empty parking lot. The rain has stopped, but the air is thick, heavy. He turns off the engine. The silence is deafening. For a long time, he just sits there, staring ahead. Thinking. Feeling. Or trying not to feel. What now? What the hell do you do after something like this? Do I stay? Try to work through it. Try to understand. Try to be the man she wished I had been before all this. Or do I walk away? Accept that some things, some people, aren't meant to be saved. But what would she even say? And worse, what if she didn't say anything at all? What if she just looked at him the way she did back at that motel, with that knowing look, like she had already moved on? Maybe I don't need her answers. Maybe the only thing I need right now, is to finally stop asking the questions. Do you think betrayal can ever be forgiven? Comment below. What would you have done? If you found that jar sitting on your table, if you twisted off the lid and felt your entire world crack open in the space of a single breath, if your partner, the person you trusted, the person you built a life with, wanted you to know this way, would you have confronted them? Demanded answers? Fought for them? Or would you have walked away, knowing that some betrayals don't come with apologies, just endings? I used to think I knew what I would do. I used to think I was the kind of person who would fight for love, who would fight for the things that mattered. But what do you do when you realize you were the only one fighting? When you're standing in the wreckage of something that was already lost before you even knew you needed to save it. Some choices define us. Some moments change us forever. This was mine. But now I want to hear from you. What would you have done? If you've ever been through something like this, if you've ever been blindsided, betrayed, left standing in the middle of a storm you never saw coming, how did you move forward? Did you stay? Did you forgive? Did you let go? Or are you still searching for the answers, like I am? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Tell me your stories. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you would have done if this had happened to you. And if you want more stories like this, stories that pull back the curtain on the raw, messy, unpredictable corners of the human heart, subscribe to the channel. Like and subscribe for more stories that uncover the darkest corners of the human heart. I never really noticed how loud silence can be. It's strange. You don't realize how fragile trust is until you watch it break. Until you see it lying in front of you, in pieces, knowing there's no amount of time, no amount of love, no amount of anything that will ever put it back the way it was. People always say that when someone betrays you, you have two choices: walk away, or fight to fix what's broken. But what if there is no fixing it? What if the damage is so deep, so permanent, that no amount of effort will make it feel whole again? I keep thinking back to that moment. That exact moment when I twisted off the lid and opened that jar. The second my eyes scanned that note. The second my fingers curled around that key. That's when everything ended. Not the night she walked out of that motel room. Not the moment she stood in our kitchen with that smile that felt more like a blade. It was the second I knew. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just take away what you had. It takes away what you thought you had. And that's what stays with you. I don't hate her. Not anymore. Hate is too easy. Too simple. And what happened? It's not simple. It's messy. It's complicated. It's human. I could sit here and blame her for everything. I could let the anger consume me, let the bitterness take root. But at the end of the day, what would that change? Funny, isn't it? The way we put things into containers, thinking we can keep them safe. Thinking we can control them. Memories. Promises. Love. Trust. But the truth? The truth was never inside that jar. The truth was in the way she looked at me when she slid it across the table. The truth was in the way I felt before I even opened it. That moment, that gut feeling, that was the real answer. I just wasn't ready to listen. Trust is fragile. Some things, once shattered, can never be put back together.